Hey, so I got a message today asking me to talk to someone a little bit about how I find looseness in my paintings, how I create sort of expressive styles and don't get so bogged down in fine detail. So I thought I'd put together a little bit of a video just to talk about a couple of the things that I do and a couple of things that I've learned that really help me to be more expressive, more loose and less kind of tied down by the subject that I'm painting. So I'll dive into them now, and if you want to see anything else like this or you want to get back to me about the things I've talked about, comment below and maybe I'll do some more videos answering some more questions. So first things first, organisation. My wife will tell you I'm one of the most unorganised people she's ever known. And as an artist, it's something that I think most of us are familiar with. But what we want to do when we're painting is eliminate as much decision making as possible so that we can concentrate on the act of just putting paint honestly onto canvas. And that needs organisation. We'll start with the first element, which I think is probably one of the most important, and that's organising your palette. So I've just finished up a commission and this is the palette that I've had laid out while I've been working. I've been working with a fairly limited palette, which is a very good idea if you want to stay organised. Over here on the right, I've got all my basic colours laid out. And then what I've done is I've picked up each of them and I've pre-mixed my entire colour palette over here. So we can see that I started with some greys and worked through mixing up from dark to light, and I've also worked with some flesh tones starting with dark and working my way through to light. And then over here towards the end of the painting is where I've picked up a little of these colours and I've started to mix extra little pieces over here where I've been adding other touches. But this is what I'm talking about with an organised palette. The last thing you want to be doing is trying to mix colours as you go, especially mixing colours on the painting, because that's when you're going to end up getting into a mess and getting muddy when we want to create nice, clear, definitive brush strokes and actions that really add to that loose feeling. Okay, so a little more about decision making, and this is about brush choice and positioning. It's really easy, especially if you're a tattooist, to get into a position where you're sitting with a tiny brush and you're stroking away and you're this close to your painting and you start to lose a feeling of texture and you start to really lose a grip on keeping things as decisive as possible. So if you've got long handled brushes, I highly recommend them. One of the things to get used to is creating distance between you and your painting. So you need freedom of movement and you need distance so that you can clearly observe what you're painting. When I'm painting, I prefer to stand and I'll position myself arm's length from the canvas. My reference would be on my iPad over here. And then what I'm doing is I'm looking at my reference, I'm deciding what I'm going to do, which area I'm going to tackle, and then literally I'll go to my very clearly laid out palette that I've been decisive about. I'll pick up the colour that I want to use, I'll step back, reference, and then decide, go in, place a brush stroke and step away. If you start to get into a habit of doing this, of being really decisive and literally placing one brush stroke at a time, you'll find that you'll build up not only a good representation of what you're painting, but also you're starting to get that looseness and that expression of who you are as an artist in the painting. So remember, paint like a fencer, stand up, move around, spend a lot more time looking at your reference than you do spend looking at your painting, and you'll start to get a much more decisive process going with your painting, which will add to the expression and the looseness of what you're expressing. Like a fencer. Pa-cha, pa-cha, look, pa-cha. While we're on the subject of brushes, keep them clean. When you're painting, in between tones, always regularly clean your brushes. The last thing you want to do is start picking up colours and then picking up a bit of another colour and another colour, because you'll end up in that all too familiar mess where everything you put onto the canvas is mud. So as long as you've got your palette laid out clearly, you know which colours you want to use, pick up that colour, use it, clean your brush, observe your reference, make another decision, pick up that colour, place it on the canvas. So keep those brushes clean in between all your brush strokes, because that's going to be a surefire way to avoid that muddy mess that a lot of painters find they end up in early on. Okay guys, well I'm going to stop there. I hope that's been useful as a little bit of an introduction into how to paint more expressively. If you've got any questions, please comment below, and if you'd like me to cover any other things, maybe even do a little 30-minute demo of a painting using the techniques I've talked about, please let me know. I'll be happy to put something together, and maybe we can all paint something and we can share what we've painted. So talk to me beneath and we'll see where we go.